Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about season 2, episode 4 of Apple TV's Ted Lasso, entitled Carol of the Bells. Now, while I always enjoy this show, and I don't see me ever not enjoying an episode of Ted Lasso, because I think, like I said on last week's video, these characters are so endearing that it's just nice to sit down with these characters for 30 minutes and just spend time around them and watch whatever it is they get into. Having said that, I feel like this episode was made a couple of interesting / strange choices. I don't want to put a bunch of soft language here, but yeah, I thought there were a couple of strange choices. So, well, it's one strange choice that has a couple of strange effects. Actually, I think that's the best way to put it. We jump forward in time here considerably. It's Christmas now. Last week we saw, the team had their streak of draws broken by their first loss, which was, we never even saw it, which I thought was still a interesting move to make, but I was perfectly fine with that because it was overshadowed by Sam's protest. So we don't see the loss, but the loss happens, and it's the first non-draw that they've had. We jump forward now to Christmas, and they're like 4-4-14. So not only have they won a game, they won 4 games, and we didn't see any of this. And I'm curious as to why they made that decision to jump ahead in time, where we missed their first win, which I feel like that's a pretty big deal. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like that's a big deal. We missed the first win. And then also, we don't see any repercussions or fallout from Sam's protest. And that bothers me more than not seeing the first win, because I don't want to feel like there's no, I don't want to say consequences, because that makes it sound like Sam deserves consequences, but I mean kind of like fallout from major events that happen. Like, to me, a protest in which you cover up the sponsor of your team and shit on your government is probably something that there should be some sort of fallout from. And I don't like the idea that a character can do something that big and then next week it's like it never happened. I mean, it's mentioned offhand by one of Higgins' kids, but like that's not handling that. So I'm curious why they did that, especially when you do it in order to have a Christmas themed episode in August. Like that's just a weird decision to me. Like it was very weird. Like, you watching this episode, it felt like a Christmas episode in the truest sense. Like, it felt like you could have a show that airs through December, and if it does a Christmas episode, usually that episode's not tied into anything else that's happening in that show's plot line. So, and that's not, obviously that's a broad stroke. That's not something that happens every time, but usually it'll kind of be just like, hey, we're having this special Christmas episode, and it might still have some of the continuity there, but it's mainly going to be focused on Christmas themes and whatnot. This episode went hard on that. They changed the opening title credits, which I thought was nice. That was, a nice little touch. The claymation figures and having everybody there. They essentially, there was nothing that was not about Christmas in this episode. You have the Secret Santa scene to open it. We find out that Higgins is essentially opening his house to players who don't get to spend the time with their family. We see that Ted is planning to FaceTime with his kid, and Rebecca apparently is going to hang out with Elton John, and Keely and Roy have this sexy Christmas thing planned, and it's a completely Christmas themed episode with virtually no ties whatsoever to what we've seen prior. And last week I did mention that, I read that those first 3 episodes were filmed with the expectation that they would be all dropped at once when the second season premiered, and it didn't play out that way. But yeah, this massive leap forward in time that kind of skips over 2 things that I thought were pretty important. It only bothers me a little bit, but I think I'm a little bit more bothered by the fact that we skipped over those things in favor of a Christmas episode in August. Like, I mean, this show's not going to be running into December, so I guess they really wanted to do a Christmas episode for some reason. I'm not really sure. I think I heard that Christmas is even bigger in the UK than it is here. So if it's a bigger deal and they say, hey, we really want to have a Christmas themed episode, then I guess there's really no good place to put it. Although I guess a good place to put it would be after we see their first win and see what happens with Sam shitting on his country. But, hey, I'll take it, right? But yeah, that was just a strange choice to me. But other than that, this was another solid, fun episode. I think Brett Goldstein, who plays Brett, who plays Roy, continues to stand out to me. He's doing an even better job of balancing like loving and heartfelt Roy, who's an asshole, with just Roy, who's an asshole, and I really like that. You see it in this episode really well when um, my favorite scene of the episode when they're doing this whole breath test thing with Phoebe, and Keely's reaction was great, but Roy's reaction was all face, and I really really admire. If you've watched any of my other videos on this channel, um, there's been times where I've shouted out actors for doing everything with their face and virtually no words. And that was a great scene. It almost looked like his eyes were watering. Like, I don't know what he was doing, but him doing that just with his face, I thought was incredible. But he had the moment prior that was great, where she's talking about this guy Bernard is picking on her, and she says something like he said that my breadsticks or whatever, and you see Roy kind of like rise up, like, where does Bernard live? Like, I like the fact that he could have just said that in the Roy voice, with his gruff, Roy attitude. But I liked the elevation there. Like, I'm ready to get up and fuck this kid up right now. I thought that was a great move by him. And then so that's where you got your good mixing of asshole Roy and loving Roy, because he's willing to beat up a kid, but it's because he loves his niece. And then you see another great moment later. And I don't know if people would call this a great moment exactly, but I thought it was nice that they give Roy these moments to where he steps completely out of that asshole mode and is just in nice guy soccer player mode. And it's when they start knocking door to door to find a dentist. And the first door they arrive at, this black kid opens the door and he's like, oh shit, it's Roy Kent. And then, he's like, are you a dentist? He's like, no. Or your parents a dentist? No. So then he starts to leave, and Phoebe says it's embarrassing. He says what's embarrassing is eating too much ice cream and pooping your pants on the bus or something like that. And then Keely says, finish the story, and he's like, 3 weeks ago. and then they cut to the kid still standing in the doorway like, Roy Kent shits his pants, so do I, or something like that. And Roy has a nice little conversation with him saying like, how about we cut that out? Yeah, okay, if you can do it, I can do it. And I like the... if you can do it, I can do it. It could have been, if I can do it, you can do it. But I like the fact that he looked at it as like the kid doing it would be inspiration to him to stop doing it. And that's just a nice way to kind of like shine that kid up, right? Now that kid's like, Roy Kent shits his pants just like I do. And he's going to look at it like, if I could stop doing it, then he could stop doing it. Like, he's going to draw inspiration from me. And they do a great job with Roy's character and giving him moments like that juxtaposed with moments like, him being on that television show as a pundit. So I think they're doing a lot of great work with Roy on this show. All these guys and gals are all nominated for Emmys for this upcoming Emmy Awards show that I think is in September, and they can't all win because some of them are in the same category. But I think Brett's doing even better this year than he did last year, and they're doing a lot of great stuff with Roy. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Roy moving forward. And then speaking of Roy, this is going to sound weird to start this with speaking of Roy. Speaking of Roy, they didn't really do anything with Jamie this episode. And I thought that was interesting too, because we saw everybody's Christmas ritual. We saw what Keely and Roy had planned. We saw what Ted had planned. We saw Rebecca had planned, everything. But we didn't see what Jamie had planned. And Jamie doesn't appear in the episode, which I don't really want to say that this is something that could come up later, because now I'm starting to wonder how dedicated this show is into following through on plot lines. So, earlier in episode 1, I was saying, season 2, episode 1, I was saying that this whole thing with Nate being kind of a dick's going to have to play out somehow. It's almost like they've forgotten that altogether. Nate stopped acting like that. Nate doesn't have any dickish moments in this episode. I don't even know if he had any in the last episode. They seem to have completely left that. Jamie had his moment in this episode where he comes in and he's like, let me get the, do you guys have a gift? I didn't know how Secret Santa works. They give him the bottle. He says, God bless me, everyone. I thought that was a great line for him. But then we don't see him again. And that's odd to me, because they played out the whole idea of the players coming to Higgins' house, and Sam shows up first. And they had set this up by saying like only 2 people generally come, but then the whole team shows up except Jamie. And I want to go. My analytical mind goes, we need to find out why Jamie wasn't there, because we don't know what Jamie had planned. Jamie doesn't show up at Higgins' house. What was Jamie doing? Like, is Jamie still in a place where he's not really comfortable spending quality time with the team? I'm thinking we're going to see that. But now I don't know. Like, I don't know how dedicated they are to showing us stuff that I think that we need to see. I'm not a fucking writer. I'm not in charge. But I thought we'd see their first win. I thought we'd see that loss. I thought we'd see fallout from Sam's protest. And we just had this Christmas episode that's kind of like almost like a bottle episode in which none of that is, virtually nothing is addressed aside from that one offhand comment by one of the kids. So I don't know what's going to happen with Jamie. I'm like this close to like stopping making predictions on what I think is going to happen based on what I see, because now I'm uncertain on how willing they are to follow through on these things. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be a lot of good stuff in these episodes and a lot of things to enjoy. So I'm going to talk about a couple of those things real quick and wrap it up. So I think it was last week's video. It was either last week's one or the one before that I talked about Keely's app banter coming into play, which again, that wasn't touched on at all in this episode either. And I said, what's going to happen is that Ted and Rebecca are going to start dealing with each other on banter, and they're not going to know who the other person is. And they furthered this potential Rebecca and Ted romantic storyline this week with Rebecca essentially ditching her plans to hang out with Elton John to take Ted out and have him help her deliver gifts to kids, because she knows what it's like for that first Christmas after her divorce. And that kind of like heartwarming moment, like they're definitely setting up this Ted and Rebecca romance. And I just feel like a good way to do that would be to have, Ted like, okay, now it's not Christmas anymore. I'm having trouble dealing with this divorce. Maybe I should hop on this app and see if I can meet somebody. We know Rebecca's already on it, I believe. So, that could be a good moment. They're not going to have their pictures. I bet they're not going to use their real names. And I bet they're going to end up connecting. And that should be pretty interesting, if not predictable. And another good note, that was actually, what's her name? Hannah Waddingham. That's actually her singing at the end when they all are outside Higgins' house caroling. That's actually her singing. And I had heard that she was a really good singer. And I had completely forgotten that until she started singing. I'm like, oh wait, didn't I hear that she's like a really good singer? So I looked it up, and yeah, that's actually her. So I think that's all I had to discuss for this episode. Yeah, that's all I had to discuss for this episode. So again, a really fun episode, lots of really good funny moments that I enjoyed. Like I said, I enjoy spending time with these characters every week, but I am starting to wonder how much effort they're going to put into following through on these storylines that I think they're setting up, but maybe they're not. And these are kind of just meant to be moments in time where it's like, okay, this thing happened and now we're not going to address it anymore. I kind of don't like that. I don't want that to happen, but we're only 4 episodes in out of probably about 10, something like that. So there's plenty of time for them to now pick things up after Christmas and kind of, address the things that they didn't address sequentially throughout the episodes. The only thing that makes me think that might not happen is that so much time has passed in between episodes 3 and 4 to where they've now won/lost 8 games. So like a lot of time has passed to the point where now I'm like, okay, well, how weird would it be for them to show fallout from Sam's protest after Christmas? It's like, okay, so it's been, within the context of the show, several months since Sam did this protest, and then we see the fallout from it. Like, that seems weird. So now I kind of feel like they can't really address that anymore, which, like I said, again, such a big moment for them to kind of like skip over. But all in all, that's the only concern, I should say, that I had. And again, it's a choice that I don't understand, but I'm very interested to find out why they did that. If any of you know, let me know. But again, fun episode, and I'll see you guys next week for episode 5. Peace.